Hello everyone, and today what we're going to be having a look at is our tried and true Buster Blader list. Now the reason we're looking at it today is we've obviously adjusted it to take into consideration the new ban list, and I was assuming this was going to be the season for Buster Blader, you know, with the general power level of the metagame going down. It not really affecting this deck too much because the only hit was to our prosperity. So ultimately I thought, you know, things were going to be looking up. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, this version of the deck just doesn't seem to be cutting it right now. It seems to be getting a little bit weaker as the metagame sort of progresses. We're going to have a few games to sort of demonstrate what I mean here. And again, what we're going to be doing then, we're not just going to take the L lying down, we're going to be looking at new ways to revolutionize the deck and get it back up and running again. As I said in previous videos, I am not going to be present here at the time of the recording. This is being pre-recorded, so by the time I come back then and land back in the UK, I'll more than likely have a few ideas as to what we're going to be doing with this deck in the future, and at that stage I'll get an updated list out. But for now, if you like what you're seeing and you want to see any more and have any suggestions, feel free to subscribe. You know, it doesn't cost you anything and it really does help me out. At him recording, we've got around 537 subscribers, which is amazing. You're all amazing. It's honestly, I can't explain why we're going up so rapidly, so thank you so much to anyone who has subscribed, and anyone who hasn't, well, I mean, you know where the button is. It's not that hard to find. And if you want to see anything in particular, leave your comments down below. I won't be able to respond to them until I get back on the 25th, but as soon as I do land back, I'll just be going through and getting back to every single comment that's been left during my time away. So again, feel free to leave your comments. I might not get to you right away, but as soon as I'm back, I'll get to you and get an answer across. For now, I've got a few games lined up, and we have a detailed sort of breakdown at the end, as well as an evaluation. So stick around for that and do watch the gameplay so you've got a bit of an idea as to what you're looking at whenever you're looking at basically the breakdown. And with no further ado, let's get into the game number one. Alright, getting into game number one here, we are going first, which is a good sign. However, look at this hand. Not exactly great. We're one card short of what we need, but we can make it work with the setup that we've got. So what we're going to do here is our opponent's going to go for Sage to floor. They're going to try and pop our prologue. We're going to trigger it now. We're going to send a Buster Blader as well as our, I believe we sent a Dragon Monster from deck to graveyard. Yep. So now we're going to chain Trap Trick to that. We're going to set, we're going to banish and set Destruction Sword Memories straight from the deck. And we're going to summon out the Buster Dragon off of prologue. He's going to get his monster out. That's fine. His Orochi's going to banish 7 to summon itself yet again. We're going to chain to that the Destruction Sword Memories, discarding the Buster Blader in our hand to summon our last Buster Blader from the deck. Now again, while we were able to get the combo to work, we've exhausted our deck of all resources. We've used both copies of our memories. We've got all copies of Buster Blader now in play, so our remaining copies of prologue are now useless. So we have put everything on the table here, but we have gotten the setup. We're going to banish memories as well as the materials to fusion summon out the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, switch everything to defense, negate their effects, but he has a Kaiju and a second Kaiju, so all of that work just for it to be completely destroyed there. Our opponent summons out Dingirsu, gets rid of our Buster Dragon, so now we're just left with the Buster Blader and a Kaiju, and he's not even going to let us have that. He's going to use his Pain Gainer to get rid of the Kaiju that he gave us before summoning number 77, the Seven Sins. He's going to summon out Shen Shen next. Again, completely oppressive here, completely dismantled us. All we had was, even the hand traps that we had were of no use against his particular strategy. So you can see there, yes, we did have to sort of extend or overextend into the combo, but even though we fully set up our plays, we still got absolutely dismantled by a rogue strategy, by a blind second. So it's not the greatest indications as to where the deck is going at the minute. The Buster Lock itself is just sort of lacking that cutting edge in terms of how to really stop this. But we're going to explore ways of making that a little bit more powerful towards the end. So let's just get into game number two. Alright, getting into game two here, we are going first again, so that's at least giving us an advantage. We're going to summon out our Vishuda and our Effect Villa here to go into the Crystron Hulk. Again, sometimes it's worth just giving up the hand trap for the Hulk play. So Hulk's going to summon out Jet Synchron so we can go into the Auroradon here, grabbing our 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens. The rest of our hand here, again, we're sort of bricking on these memories, bricking on the Buster Bladers a little bit, but we are able to use the Auroradon to go into the Borreload Savage Dragon. That's going to give us an Omni Negate on the following 3 turns, so that's great. And the Olan's going to grab us 1 more token here. Now in the graveyard we have Jet Synchron, so we're able to get that memories into the grave for the Jet Synchron to go into Herald of the Arclight. So we've got 2 Omni Negates on board, as well as the ability to summon out our Buster Lock whenever the Herald of Arclight is officially off the field. Our opponent's going to go for Extravagance here off the bat. We're going to allow it because we're playing against Altergeist. Now, Altergeist Marionetta here on Summon's going to try and activate. We're going to negate it with Herald of the Arclight, just so 1, we can get a powerful negate off, and 2, we're going to want to get our Prologue up and running as soon as possible, which we can't do with a Herald on the field. So basically we just want to use it as a free negate and then completely disrupt our opponent. Now we don't use the Prologue because our opponent just sets 2 and pass. We're not going to use it too early because, you know, the Buster Dragon is destroyed on the turn following its activation, so we want to keep our plays alive as long as we possibly can. Our opponent at this point is going to go into Altergeist and Multi-Faker, so this is now when we're going to activate it to basically stop our opponent from using the effects of the Multi-Faker and such on our turn. We're going to summon out the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman here in attack position, and the Prologue then is going to summon out the Buster Dragon. Savage Dragon's going to stop the Multi-Faker from coming out to the field, as the last thing we want to be dealing with right now is that, and our opponent realizes that we've got more than enough capacity here to go in for a lethal play, and they just scoop it up. Again, quick and simple game number 2. It's showing the power of the deck still there, but the power of the deck lies in the more combo oriented parts of it. It's not necessarily the Buster Lock by itself, it's more so having a deck that uses the Buster Lock as an additional facet. So that's, again, going to have to be considered when we're talking about what direction the deck needs to take to go further. But for now, let's get into game number 3. Alright, game number 3 here. We're going second this time, which again isn't great for the deck, and it's against another Altergeist player. Altergeists are really sort of picking up since the Multi-Faker got released to 2, so that's great. The Meluseek here is going to try and activate in the graveyard. We're going to ask that. We don't need him searching for any additional cards. He's going to set 2 and pass it back to us, so that's fine. Although we are dealing with Altergeist, so remember how powerful those back row cards can be. We're going to normal summon out our Whelp. He's going to try and use his manifestation to revive the Meluseek. That's a perfect opportunity to hit it with Call by the Grave, so we're going to get banishing on that Meluseek, so that trap card is now officially useless. So that's great. We're going to use our Whelp here to grab the extra deck lock. Now our Multi-Faker here from our opponent is still going to be able to activate, so he's going to summon the Multi-Faker and the Silquitus. We go to swing into the Linkuriboh just to get it off the field, and then we're going to link summon into a Linkuriboh of our own, and then we set 1. Now our opponent unfortunately knows exactly what we're up to, so they return the Multi-Faker to the hand to bounce the Prologue back to our hand. Now that puts us in a really tight spot. The face down was imperm, so we're going to negate our Linkuriboh, yet again triggering the Multi-Faker to summon it and a Meluseek out to the field. They're going to link summon now into Hextia, and they're going to add Manifestation now back to their hand. They're going to link summon one more time into the Prime Banshee. Now Prime Banshee is pretty damn cool, and it's going to trigger even more effects in the graveyard, continuing to generate card advantage here from our opponent, although the Meluseek is negated from last turn, because again, Called by the Grave lasts for 2 turns. So our opponent's going to swing into our Linkuriboh here. It was negated by the Imperm, so there was no point using its effect, so we just take the hit and pass. Now we've got the Basal Roshoot in hand here, so we're going to normal summon out our the Buster Whelp. He's going to use his manifestation to summon out Hextia. That's once again going to trigger Multi-Faker, which is once again going to summon Silquitus. Now we're going to use the Basal Roshoot, and he's going to negate that using the Hextia. Again, Hextee is a real problem. It can tribute monsters that it points to negate the effects or activations of spells and traps, so it's going to put us in a rough spot. We're going to tribute our monster here to summon back out our Linkuriboh, and then we're going to set one pass. But again, this guy knows exactly what he's up to. He's using his Silquitus to return the Prologue back to our hand yet again. He knows exactly what we need to do to get our win condition going, and he's doing his best to stop us from achieving that goal. Again, it's looking very, very bleak here as our opponent continues to generate massive amounts of advantage every single turn, summoning out the Hextee once again, pointing at his monster here, and again, attack points equal to the attack points of the monster it points to. So he's up to 3100 and then 2100 from the Prime Banshee as well. We're at 1000 life here, very, very close to the end of the game. So we draw, and we draw in the Jet Synchron. It doesn't give us much to play with, so we set the Lion because when it's sent to the grave, it'll grant us a token. He's going to summon out Multi-Faker and then the Meluseek here from the deck. So again, it's looking a little bit hopeless for us here. He's going to swing in directly with a Meluseek to deal 500, as well as destroying, or sending to the graveyard, sorry, our face down. We didn't get to activate it on time. We did misplay quite heavily there. The Meluseek sends in damage calculation. That wasn't exactly what we were planning. Again, very, very rough situation. We could potentially have done a little bit more to stop that from happening, but the Hextee simply would have negated it, which was the big concern. So again, he gets rid of our monster, swings in with the Marionetter, and that is game, unfortunately. So Altergeist are giving this deck a lot of problems because they are using trap cards, spell cards, to, you know, they're negating you, they're bouncing you, they're doing everything they can to prevent you from setting up in the first place. And to be honest, it's not even that difficult for them to get past your setup once you've got it in place, because they're able to use their back row to dispatch your cards. We are sort of not in a back row heavy meta game, but we're in a meta where back row decks are becoming a little bit more powerful now that certain floodgates and things have been removed, and decks like that have lost their sort of monopoly, allowing the doors to be opened to the likes of Altergeist, to the likes of Salamangreats. So just be ready to see that, and that does sort of negatively impact the overall strength of Buster Blader. It does have a very, very positive matchup against monster-based decks, not so much against a deck that doesn't really use monsters as much as another one would. So again, that's the matchups. Let's get into the deck profile and we'll have a chat about each of the cards in there. Alrighty, so moving into the deck profile here, the first thing we're going to do is remove all of the hand traps and such. So we're playing double Effect Veiler, we're playing double Max C, double Ash Blossom, we're playing the double Imperm, we're playing Crossout Designator, and double Called by the Grave, and that is pretty much it. So everything else you see here is core. You've got 11 slots in the deck you can play around with and do whatever you want with those 11 slots. Now, looking at the core of the deck, the Buster Blader engine itself, I've described it before in the past, but not in a while. So the Buster Blader part of the deck is basically a 9 card engine, or a 10 card engine, I should say, sorry, mainly 9 cards. It's gotten a lot less consistent with the hit the Pot of Prosperity, unfortunately, but the 9 cards that it's basically built up of is you want to see either the Whelp or the Prologue or the Trap Trick. And why do you want to see one of those 3? Well, the card you really want to get access to is Prologue. The other 2 you want because they search for Prologue. This is the card that kicks everything off when it comes to the Buster Blader. It will send a Destruction Sword card and a Buster Blader monster from your deck to the graveyard in order to summon the Buster Dragon from your extra deck. Now, this is the Buster Dragon here. While it's face up, all of your opponent's monsters become dragons, and that is very, very important. Now, what cards are you sending to the graveyard? You need to have 3 cards in your graveyard. Prologue takes care of 2 of them, so you need to find an alternative method of getting the final card into your grave, which usually isn't all that difficult, because you need either Memories or a dragon monster in the grave before activating your Prologue, and Prologue will fill in the blanks. Now again, you're getting a dragon monster into the graveyard very, very easily. How are you doing it? By summoning your Whelp. If you draw into it, if you open up with this card, you summon your Whelp, you search for your Prologue, and then you link summon using your Whelp into Linkuriboh, and now you've got a dragon in your graveyard, the Prologue in your hand. That's ideal scenario. Secondary to that, you've also got a Rose Dragon engine here. So basically the Rose Dragons are going to combine with your spammable level 7s in order to summon out Baron de Fleur and go into the crazy sort of Crystron Hell combo. And of course, with the culmination of that combo, if you have access to your prologue as well, you're going to have a dragon in your graveyard, at least one, to banish off of its effect in order to get your prologue going as well. So you will usually have a dragon in your graveyard. It's very, very rarely a problem. If you don't, you can still get the combo going by having memories in your graveyard, which will normally end up in your grave, if not through prologue, by being discarded from the effect of Jet Synchron during your Crystron Hell combo. So bear that in mind, there's tons of ways to get these cards into the grave, so you're not overly concerned about it. And of course, you've got the 1 Pot of Prosperity here to help search for these cards, making it that little bit more consistent. So that's how the Buster Blader engine itself works. Of course, you need to play plenty of copies of Buster Blader to make sure you can resolve your prologue more than once if needed, and if in an emergency, you can also then try to resolve your Destruction Sword memories, although that's not always compulsory. So that's fine. You can play 2 or 3 of the Buster Blader. You gotta play 3 of all these other cards, and I think you have to play Pot of Prosperity. It's just too good not to. We were playing 3 Buster Blader, but I'm probably going to cut this down based upon the performance recently. So where does the rest of the deck fit in then? So we mentioned before the Rose Dragons and your spammable level 7s. Vishita will summon itself to your field while you don't control any effect monsters, and the Ascend of the Thunder will just pay 3,000 life to summon itself. So very easily summoned, both of them. And they're going to combine with your Red Rose Dragon in order to Synchro summon into Baron de Fleur, and that's going to trigger your Red Rose Dragon to get your Hulk combo going. What do we mean by that? So Crystron Hulk is basically going to help you set up a Borreload Savage Dragon as well as the Herald of the Arclight. If you get the Red Rose Dragon and one of your level 7s, you can have a Baron de Fleur as well as those other 2 monsters. How does it work? Your Red Rose Dragon plus your level 7 will give you Baron de Fleur, or Qing Ying if you're feeling adventurous, but Baron de Fleur. The Red Rose Dragon then's effect will summon the Rox Rose Dragon from the deck. Rox Rose Dragon will search your deck for the Basil Rose Shoot. The Basil Rose Shoot will revive the Red Rose Dragon from the graveyard. Then using your 2 Rose Dragons, you're going to link summon into Crystron Halqifibrax. Halqifibrax then is going to summon from your deck Jet Synchron. Using Jet Synchron and your Crystron, you're going to link summon into Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon. It's going to summon out 3 tokens. You're going to tribute itself in a token to go into your Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion. O-Lion plus your 2 remaining tokens is going to summon out the Borreload Savage Dragon. Then when this guy is sent to the graveyard, he will give you another token. Then you use the effect of Jet Synchron, discard a card, tune your Jet Synchron with the remaining level 3 token to summon out your Herald of the Arclight. So now you've got your Baron de Fleur for an Omni Negate, you've got your Borreload Savage Dragon for an Omni Negate, you've got the Herald of the Arclight for an Omni Negate, as well as putting a dragon monster in your graveyard to make sure you can resolve your prologue if you also happen to open it. So very, very, very powerful combo. Trying to get into the Red Rose Dragon more consistently would probably be the way forward for this particular variant of the deck. But again, that's why we had the Prosperity. It did honestly make a huge difference. Just those extra 2 copies were massive in making this little engine here significantly more consistent. Now that we don't have those Prosperities, we're sort of struggling to get this resolved nearly as often. But yeah, that's the sort of core engine there. That covers off most of the deck. The only card it doesn't is the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. Basically, you can equip this card onto your PSup Buster Blader monsters using either its own effect to equip onto an actual Buster Blader, which is this guy, or you can equip it onto your fusion monster by using the Buster Dragons effect. It will equip it from the graveyard onto a Buster Blader monster you control, which can include this guy here. So as long as he's face up as an equip card, your opponent cannot use their extra deck. So that's the main deck. Again, it's relatively sort of straightforward. There's that Baron de Fleur combo to memorize, but apart from that, it's usually just go into Hulk if possible. If not, set up your prologue. Relatively straightforward. Going into the extra deck, again, very straightforward. You have your Buster Lock itself. So the Buster Dragon will be summoned off of prologue. and it turns all your opponent's monsters into dragons. Now, why do we want to do that? Well, with memories in the graveyard, it can banish itself as well as a Buster Blader and a dragon to fusion summon into Buster Blader the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. That means all of your opponent's dragon type monsters are switched to defense and cannot activate their effect. And with the Buster Dragon, all of your opponent's monsters become dragons. So he negates everything and switches everything to defense. Really, really powerful and detrimental against a lot of decks, especially very combo oriented decks. You have your Herald of the Arclight, Borreload Savage Dragon, and your level 10 synchros, your Baron de Fleur and Supreme Sovereign for the Rose Dragon combo. So that's a very big part of as to why they are here. There's also the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. He is purely here to deal with the Cheng Ying. Sometimes the Cheng Ying is simply too big for your Buster Blader to get over it, and it will just turn around and mess you up if you leave it on the field for too long. So the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend is here to deal with opposing Cheng Ying. Doesn't come up very often, but he's still generally a pretty powerful card regardless. Now, you also have number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk. Number 42 Galaxy Tomahawk really sort of lets you skip into your Aurora Dawn combo, getting past the Hulk part. All you need is 2 level 7s, so you can have your Ascendant of Thunder and your Tenyu Spirit Vishuda. That means that you can get kicked into your Aurora Dawn right away without even needing to worry about having a tuner, using just these 2 guys. So it's just one more starter card and one more possible way of branching into your combo. You summon this guy. Now make sure to summon it to one of your main monster zones, and then you summon 4 tokens to your field. Using the Galaxy Tomahawk, you use it and 2 of your tokens to go into your Aurora Dawn. Aurora Dawn gives you 3 more tokens, and then you just combo off from there as you normally would. So it is relatively straightforward. It's just another starter, and it helps put a couple of extra cards on your field as well. So generally speaking, number 42 is an excellent starter for the deck. Moving into the toolbox cards, of course we have your Linkuriboh, just to make sure you can put this guy in the grave more reliably. You have Monk of the Tenyi. Occasionally this comes up with Vishuda. Sometimes you want to just be able to bounce a card back to your opponent's hand. It's especially useful when it comes to dealing with floodgates. So that's why it's here. You can totally cut this and put in something else. I'm constantly tempted to, but the ability to snipe floodgates with a Vishuda while the Monk is in your deck is very, very tempting and important. Crystron Hulk for your main combo. Aurora Dawn for your main combo, and then we've got Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. Basically, you can summon this using any 2 monsters, and it will send a Destruction Sword card from deck to graveyard, and that will fill in one of your missing combo pieces. If you happen to have one of the big guys in your hand, it will also summon that to the field, so it turns this guy from a brick into an extender, which is really neat. I don't use this card very often. I think it's still really strong. It's nice to have, but it's not something I would summon on a regular basis. But it is definitely something worth considering. I know a lot of people play this at 2 or 3. I wouldn't play more than one of it, but I can see sort of where they're coming from. And that's the deck. Again, we are going to need to sort of turn this around and revolutionize it a little bit to help it keep up with the metagame. So if you have any ideas that, you know, I can come back to once I'm back in the UK, fire them down below. I'll get round to everybody as soon as I'm sort of feet's back on the ground. And if you like what you're seeing and you want to see any more, feel free to subscribe. Apart from that, I don't really have anything else left to say. So I'll love yous and leave yous on that note. See you later.